Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
That's right. 2 hours down. Let's get to it. Everyone's one of our favorite segments here, of course, Football at 4. And there's a lot of football to talk about right now, of course. Ryan Rothstein, that's me, at Wise Rye, filling in for Mike Gill, Danny Ryan, alongside me here. We're both filling in for MG at Danny Rye 02. Football at 4 is brought to you by Bet 365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet 365. Andrew DiCecco is joining us today. Give Andrew a follow at Andrew DiCecco, Andrew DiCecco. I'm excited to talk to Andrew. It's been a little while. Andrew, how we doing, man? We got a lot to get into today. That's for damn sure.
Ryan, always good to talk to you, man. We sure do. How's everything on your end?
Yeah, all good, man. All good. So let's get right into it, right? Let's get right into it. There's a lot here for us to dissect. Let's have you open things up, right? Like, how are you feeling about this team right now? Are you saying, all right, it's been a pretty ugly 3 weeks, but they still can and will come out of the NFC, things are going to be okay? Or have things taken a darker and steeper turn than maybe you could have anticipated so far this season?
Well, this Eagles team unexpectedly took a nosedive. I certainly didn't see that coming. Obviously, there was some challenges at the end of that gauntlet, as everyone referred to it as, with the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers, they got outclassed by Dallas. They got outclassed by. Losing is okay, but when it's understandable. But losing in that fashion, it's concerning. It revealed a lot of flaws on this football team, and then it looked like Monday night was going to be a get-right game with the Seattle Seahawks, and they squandered opportunities, and they were unable to sustain anything offensively. The same issues that have been persisting over the past few weeks continued on Monday night against an inferior opponent. Obviously, there's the whole defensive coordinator shakeup, which, let's face it, Sean Desai was a scapegoat, in my opinion. This is a team in the Eagles that have had the best record in the NFL for 33 straight weeks. Obviously, they haven't played to their standard, and the season hasn't reached expectations. But I thought removing Sean Desai from his responsibilities was a knee-jerk reaction. And while he was a culprit in some of their deficiencies, he was hardly the main reason for why it went sideways. So, I mean, the Eagles have 3 weeks here to piece it together, and then they have the playoffs. So they don't have a whole lot of time.
No, they don't. I feel bad for Sean Desai because – a 10-1 football team not too long ago, Andrew. It's like, all right, you had Matt Patricia here from the start, almost like I can't think of a situation that I can compare to off the top of my head, but it's like, someone looking over their shoulder, and as soon as they slip up, you knew that Matt Patricia was going to get put into the ball game, so to speak. So it definitely was short end of the stick for Sean Desai. And when it first happened, Andrew, I'm like, what about the offense? Right? Like, I know the defense was bad, but what are you going to do about this offense? And then Sirianni speaks yesterday, and my goodness, it just seems like a dumpster fire right now, led by Nick Sirianni. Like, what's your thoughts on the head coach?
Well, right now, I mean, he took full ownership of the offense's inefficiencies. And, I mean, look, his fingerprints are on everything that the Eagles do offensively. So he seemed to take full ownership of that, and Brian Johnson's the one who's drawn quite a bit of ire throughout this season and a lot of frustration from the fan base, and rightfully so. But, I mean, look, Nick Sirianni had a hand in getting these guys in, and sometimes this team in the past few years has gotten out to shaky starts. They don't necessarily seem like they're overly prepared sometimes. Sometimes they play down to their opposition. So, I mean, I think eventually when the scapegoats start getting, come to the surface, eventually they're going to be gone, and you have to point the finger, and the spotlight shifts over to Nick Sirianni, who is the CEO of this football team. And, I mean, he hasn't delivered. There's been a lot of questionable decision-making on his end this year. yesterday's press conference was he said a lot of puzzling remarks that I think were pretty head-scratching. So, I mean, you have to wonder where the team's focus is right now. On paper, Ryan, it looks like the next 3 games are going to be cupcakes, and they should be able to steamroll that into the playoffs and have that momentum. But it's hard to look at any of these games right now and think that they're going to be definitive wins and convincing wins at that. The Eagles have a lot to prove here, and it starts Christmas Day with Tommy DeVito and the New York Giants coming in.
Tommy Cutlets, as Danny's been saying, and the whole world's been saying. But Andrew DiCecco from Inside the Birds. Andrew, I know you wrote an article on InsideTheBirds.com after the Monday night stunner titled "Speechless in Seattle." Takeaway. I know you had takeaways. Take us through your biggest observations that you saw from that Monday night embarrassment that you say, like that's concerning. That's something that certainly needs to be fixed. What were your biggest takeaways / concerns from the loss?
Well, I mean, the third down issues persist, and I thought that and they had 7 drives that stalled. There's 2 interceptions in crucial moments in that game. It just seemed like they weren't able to sustain their momentum after that first drive, and it sort of came apart at the seams there. They weren't able to. I mean, there was the Jason Kelsey penalty, which is uncharacteristic. Jalen Hurts is not seeing the field particularly well, which has been a common thread throughout the season. Defensively, the pass rush hasn't been there, and they're not helping out the coverage. The pass rush and the coverage you're supposed to marry the two, and they're supposed to work in concert. That has yet to really happen sustainably throughout this year, or consistently. And I mean, I liked what Matt Patricia did with working in some of the younger players. I think fresh legs really help, especially this is an older defense, but they've also logged a ton of snaps. So getting guys like Sidney Brown and Keely Ringo and Nolan Smith and Eli Ricks and those type of players involved, I think is ultimately going to help the Eagles down the stretch here. But I mean, look, there was a lot of concerning elements to Monday night's game that you can't necessarily pinpoint one area. And I would thought that this was to only muster 17 points against the Seattle Seahawks, which is a far cry from the Legion of Boom of old. I mean, that's inexcusable, guys. You have to be able to. You're supposed to be among the upper echelon teams in the NFL, and they didn't deliver in a national spotlight.
Andrew, Danny Ryan here. I want to ask you really just about one of the positive parts of Monday night's loss against the Seahawks. It was the running attack. It was the rushing attack straight up, because Jalen Hurts, anytime you can run him 13 times for 82 yards and 2 touchdowns, even DeAndre Swift, 18 carries for 74 yards. That's a vast improvement than what we've seen in past weeks. They seem to have listened to the fans outside the NovaCare complex. So my question for you is, do you think they might be taking this just piece by piece, getting better and improving in the small areas or in just one specific area week by week? And do you think they'll continue to do that? If so, against the Giants twice and the Cardinals? Because it seems like to me they're trying to improve, but it's just not all going to happen in 1 week. You know, 1 week the rushing attack is going to be very effective and the passing attack not so much. Where do you stand on that?
Well, Danny, I think it's an offense that lacks a lot of rhythm. Some weeks you see them lean on the running game, which hasn't been that often recently. A lot of times you see them take to the air, and they were really obsessed and enamored with trying to strike on these explosive plays. I just don't see a lot of consistency. There's certain pieces that stand out week to week, but they're not able to put it all together. And what you're seeing is an underperforming offense which has a ton of playmakers and the league's best offensive line. So to be able to only manufacture 17 points, you struggled in Dallas, you struggled against the 49ers. You really weren't able to do much in Kansas City. I mean, that is alarming considering the weaponry and the firepower you have on offense. So I haven't really seen them being able to consistently put things together. Yeah, you have seen marked improvements in some areas, but then they suffer in the area that they were proficient in the week before. So it's just a really sporadic production on the offensive side.
Talking with Andrew DiCecco, Inside the Birds. Give him a follow at Andrew DiCecco. I saw. Well, what's your solution? Let me just leave it at this. What's your solution, if you have one, Andrew, to the Eagles' offensive struggles? I saw something interesting. The percent of under center plays that are drop back passes in the NFL. Philly, 4%. The next lowest team, which is dead last in the NFL, 18% for Indy, which is Shane Steichen territory. But Just throwing that out there, fun Snapple fact, if you will. What would you change with this offense, Andrew?
Well, it's quite simple. Don't always lean on the shot play. Take what the defenses are giving you and try and establish some sort of a rhythm. I think that too often you see when the Eagles are finding some traction in the running game, they revert back to this pass-heavy offense. And like I said, they are so enamored with trying to hit the home run rather than take sometimes the flat routes or things that are there available. And Jalen Hurts is at he's at the forefront in this. He isn't seeing the field particularly well. He looks really scattershot in the pocket, and he's dropping his eyes. These are things that he wasn't really doing prior to 2022. This is a common traits that he was showing in 2021, and it seems like he's obviously undergoing a regression here. So I think it all starts with the quarterback and simplifying things and finding a way to get some early throws over the middle to Dallas Goedert, continue to lean on those slants to A.J. Brown, get those early completions so you can settle in and then open up the whole playbook.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It seems like, listen, I'm not the guy that screams, run the ball. I get it. But it's alarming to me, Andrew, for what it's worth, for what I know, which ain't much, man. But they're not even attempting to establish a run game, and this is an RPO-focused offense, right? Like, if you're not running the ball, the whole run and the run-pass option is eliminated. I mean, am I wrong with that?
You're 100% right. Exactly. That's why it's not working.
I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't – 2 + 2 doesn't should equal 4, but it's not getting there, Danny.
Against bad teams in their upcoming schedule as well, I feel like they should be more committed to running the football, especially when a guy like Devonta Smith finds his name on the injury report today and did not practice.
Yep.
2 of the players you expected on the injury report not to practice, and that's Darius Slay and Landon Dickerson. But Devonta Smith, Nicholas Moreau, and Zach Cunningham did not practice. Juergens and Maddox, full participants. Concerning, though. I mean, it is the Giants. We've established they're
not having Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham, if that were the case for Monday. I mean, Shaq Leonard and I don't know, Ben Van Sumeren, and you might have to continue to use Sidney Brown as a quasi linebacker. That's pretty alarming if you're the Eagles.
Yeah, regardless of opponent. I mean, it's still a National Football League team in the Giants. They've been playing better football as of late. So, Andrew, just speak a little bit more on what the absence of Devonta Smith and even Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham could be like on Monday.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't I continue to piggyback off of what you were saying about, you mentioned Zach Cunningham and Nicholas Morrow. And Shaq Leonard, to me, guys, look like he doesn't have a whole lot available, a whole lot left in the tank, and being just 28 years old. Injuries have taken a toll. This is a former All-Pro player, but slow to react, took poor angles the other night. He doesn't seem to have the burst or the juice that he once had. But now, all of a sudden, he's fronting, at least as we stand right now today, he's fronting that linebacking unit. And Ben Van Sumeren is a special teams player. He's a first-year player, an undrafted free agent, really athletic, but he's not ready necessarily to step in and assume defensive snaps. So right now, those are your two guys, and then you could probably, I think that they would continue to lean on just using one linebacker and probably using someone like either a Kevin Byard or Sidney Brown to supplement that position. There's not a whole lot there on the practice squad or anything like that. Brandon Smith from Penn State's available. And then shifting over to the offensive side, Devonta Smith is, to me, what makes this offense go. And I know it's easy to look at the quarterback in Jalen Hurts, but Devonta Smith is a 3-level threat. He's a terrific route runner, and he's the guy that Jalen looks to in critical moments over the middle. He has very sure hands, and he's just able to do so many different things. And to not have that, Jalen's security blanket, it was Dallas Goedert, but to me it's Devonta Smith, and to not have that, the Eagles really don't even have a third option in the passing game from a wide receiver standpoint. So, Olamide Zaccheaus, you're going to start Quez Watkins. Look, you should be able to beat the Giants with what you have, even if those guys aren't able to play. But I don't know if you can definitively say that anymore, given the Eagles' inefficiency to generate any kind of consistency offensively. So not having Devontae would be really critical, obviously, needless to say, on Monday night. But, the Eagles, they can't afford to slip up here in these next 3 weeks.
No. Well, they can't afford to slip up anymore. My goodness. They need to pick themselves off the mat, Andrew. We'll see if they're able to do that or take any steps to doing that, to getting back up again here against 3 teams that they certainly should be able to beat. Andrew DiCecco, InsideTheBirds.com. Give him a follow at Andrew DiCecco. Excellent insight. Make sure you check out his articles. Make sure you give him a follow. Great stuff, man. Listen, happy holidays, happy New Year, and we'll talk to you next year, I guess, right here on the Sports Bash, brother.
Look forward to talking to you again, Ryan. Happy holidays, guys. Take care.